Hello, Scrollgers, Smogan here, another episode of Scrollscast, this one from the first round of the ESL tournament, one of the weekly tournaments. You can go to reddit.com r/scrolls or a Scrolls Guide to learn more information about actually joining one of these tournaments. They are a lot of fun. You don't have to be one of the top players in the world to enjoy yourself and get a taste of what competitive Scrolls looks like. But these two are some very strong players, both above 1700, both in the top 100 players on the ladder. Ikraen versus Tak4n. Looks like we have a mono growth build versus a mono energy build, and it looks like my spectate mode broke temporarily. Oh nope, it got going. Okay, I almost had to rejoin the game, but we are good. Tak4n looks to be playing a big energy deck. We see the Ironclad Reaver, the Cannon Automaton, the Iron Ogre. We can imagine that he will have a number of ways to accelerate his resources, things like Power Trip and Fulmination Conduit, to try to help him get up to those high cost monsters. But for now we just see the turn 2 Spark on the turn 2 Vengeful Vader. Ikraen goes up to 3 now. He can either play Skythorn or one of his other Vaders. He chooses the Skythorn front and center. And Tak4n now does not have a 3-drop, so he'll just sacrifice for resources and pass the turn back to his opponent. Ikraen now will be able to go up to 4 and drop both a Vader and a Kinfolk Brave, so not a bad start for him. His deck is not quite standard for a monogrowth deck with Skythorn and the Vengeful Vaders, but I personally like both of these scrolls, and depending on what else is going on in his deck, and I think I saw a Budding Retreat in there somewhere, they could become very, very powerful. Tak4n now has an Ecamaton for his 4th turn play, shifts that to the top, away from the Kinfolk Brave. Ikraen finds no ID, of course very strong with the Skythorn, but has to sacrifice it for now. Finds a Vader of the Wild and a God Hand. God Hand won't be good for quite some time, but Vader of the Wild helps to accelerate up to that, and 2 damage to the middle idol. Tak4n now can go up to 5 and play Ironclad Reaver if he so chooses. Doesn't have any acceleration from yet. I assume that he has it, but just hasn't drawn it. Goes up to 5. Ironclad Reaver is the play here. He'll have to decide if he wants to continue to play to the top or if he wants to try to move down. Actually, he chooses to Spark the Brave and move down, so playing a little bit differently. Not that that was a bad play at all. That Brave was preventing him from getting in for any real damage. Ikraen now showing us what he's trying to accelerate to with all of these Vaders with that Jarl Urhold. Also has a Fjords of Vigor, which I think is an underrated scroll. It's similar to a Crimson Bull, but it works for several turns, and you still get a lot of surprise damage from it. Ikraen was able to get a Pillage effect from the Vengeful Vader. Tak4n drops a Cannon Auto, shifts his Ecamaton back. Ikraen on 6 now. Can go up to 7 if he chooses to. Starts with no ID to get the draw off the Skythorn. Finds a Budding Retreat, still on 6 resources. Sacrifices for scrolls. Could play Budding Vader. Could play Budding Vader, and he does so. Can't go to 7 or to 8 next turn in a way that I can see, unless he's able to get some sort of combo going. For now, Tak4n has the turn, finds a Skull Shrine off the top of his deck, and can get that out if he wants, but that would mean not playing one of his Ironclad Reavers. And I think at this point he just needs to populate the board. And so we do see a Reaver come down, move to the front, Cannon Auto and the Ecamaton are ready to attack next turn. Ikraen now could take out that Reaver by playing Ragged Wolf Fjords of Vigor. And I wouldn't mind seeing that play. He would have to shift his Vader down. Finds another Skythorn as well, so he could play Skythorn, Ragged... Oh, I guess he got rid of his Fjord, so he's not going to be able to do that. But he does play his Sister the Fox, counting down both Skythorns and drawing him a scroll. Shifts his Vengeful Vader up, plays a Ragged Wolf to the center, counting down again, getting a little bit of damage off, and he will be able to pillage off the Vader, which will allow him to get up to the Jarl Urhold resources next turn. Already on 8, in fact, with the 2nd Vader of the Wild played. Tak4n finds a Sudden Eruption, extraordinarily powerful against decks with lots of small creatures if you can get to a high resource count. And look what he just pulled, Fulmination Conduit. So if he can get that out and protect it, he could get a really big Sudden Eruption play as soon as next turn to take out most of Ikraen's army here. I'm not sure if well, let's see what he's going to do with that positioning. He looks like he might be... He starts with a Snargle Hunter and then Fulmination Conduit up to the top, spacing his units out a little bit. Gets in, takes out one of the Skythorns, which is important because they're about to draw Ikraen extra scrolls. Ikraen now on 8. He can't God Hand unless he draws it right off the top of his deck, but he can afford Jarl Earlhold. Starts with a Ragged Wolf, which is free because of the Budding Vader. Finds a no ID. Still deciding what to do. Looks like we are going to see that Jarl come down. So starting here in a few turns, and look at the comes into play effect. The inspiring +2 attack is going to allow Ikraen to take out the Ironclad Reaver and get some extra idle damage in. The Jarl is currently exposed though. And look at this power trip now. So we could see Fulmination Conduit into power trip into something ridiculous. This is going to be crazy. He's on 12 now. Finds a Spark. Sudden Eruption currently hits 8 units out of the 9. And is able to get almost everything. So Jarl Earlhold does survive, but is being massively threatened by the cannon auto. Big turn by Tak4n. But Ikraen, I think he still has a rallying, and in fact does. So we could see rallying to allow him to take out some of these units. He starts with a Rat King, which only costs him 1 resource because of the Budding Vader, while counting down the Skythorn 3 times. Now, what is he going to do? He can still sacrifice. Unable to find... A Ragged Wolf would have been perfect there, but unable to find it. It would have let him count down the Skythorn again for free and still afford the rallying. And it looks like he is going to set up for a rally play to take out the Snargle Hunter and the Cannon Automaton. So nice turn by Ikraen, able to recover from losing most of his stuff to the big sudden eruption by Tak4n. Tak4n now has a 5 attack Ekomaton though, so Spark will get through that Beast Rat and expose the Jarl Earlhold to that attack. So that's obviously going to be his big play there. With the rest of his resources, he can pop the Conduit to get the Skull Shrine and the Solemn Giant out, or he can just choose one, and it looks like he's choosing the Solemn Giant, and able to get in and take out the Earlhold. So very nicely done by Tak4n. Ikraen, let's see, can't get to God Hand easily. He can set up to do it next turn. He would want to populate the board if that's going to be his play. Does have a couple of small units. Pitches for scrolls, finds a Kinfolk Brave. He could underdog Spite, but I don't know that he can really benefit from that. Vader does come down. Brave comes down, so it looks like he's setting up to... He underdog Spites this turn, so actually he is able to kill the Giant, so well done by Ikraen. The Ekomaton is getting bigger and bigger, and but Ikraen will have God Hand resources next turn if he chooses. Unless, of course, Tak4n can deal with the Vader of the Wild. Note that Tak4n with the Conduit can get up to 11 resources this turn, but he pitches his 7-cost Iron Golem, and only finds 2 Ekomatons. He plays another Conduit, Skull Shrine as well, and just passes the turn. Ikraen looking to punish that. He has Terran Brute, God Hand as well, and I think that God Hand's got to be the play. He'll also get the draw off the Skythorn if he plays that God Hand, which is really nice because it counts down structures as well. And the God Hand is a board clear, and I think you just got to take the board clear when you can find it. I don't see lethal, and it looks like... I guess he can play the Ragged Wolf for free, so that's what's going to happen here. I was worried about what was going to happen with that Ekomaton. Ragged Wolf will come behind the Brave. Now the God Hand will come down, and we're going to see just a ton of damage coming in. I don't think it would have been lethal. I don't think there's any way to find that, but he does get the board clear and has rallying for next turn as well. Tak4n is on the ropes, but if he can just find Sudden Eruption or Thunder Surge, more likely Sudden Eruption, he'll be in good shape again. But doesn't have it, and he lost all that potential resources from his conduits that both bit the dust that turn. Is still on 9 out of 7 though because of the Skull Shrine. For now he's just going to have to play a Conduit out, Ekomaton behind it, or I'm sorry, up to the top, and Gravelock Guard as well. So 3 idols are undefended. We'll see if Ikraen is able to take advantage of that. Needs some way to increase attack pretty substantially to do so. And doesn't find it, but he does find Budding Retreat. So he could play... He starts with the Terran Brute. then a Rat King. So that's going to count down the Brute by 3. Gets a draw off the Skythorn. Now has another Budding Vader. So he's got 2 Buddings that he could not play this turn, but play over the next 2 turns if he chooses. Fertile Soil for now rebuilds his hand size. So Ikraen doing very nicely with this Waypoint style comes into play deck, really taking advantage of the Skythorn, Rat King, Terran Brute, Budding Vader synergy. Fjords of Vigor is ready to rock and roll next turn as well. That's going to be a lot of damage off of one of these rallyings, basically doubling his attack power. Kinfolk Brave for now is able to take out the center idol, only 2 to go. Tak4n has Power Trip, so he can go ahead and play that just for the cantrip, which he might want to do here, and just see what he draws. But he does pitch his Burn, which would have been nice to take out one of these units. Up to 12 resources, and really can't spend it. He's got tons of resources, but really nothing big to play. He would really like to have that Burn back to get a draw and see if he can find something else. Right? I mean, right now all he can do really is Snargle Hunter, Gravelock Guard. I guess he could Fury, but with that Fury, all he's really getting is a couple of attacks. I mean, they're relevant attacks, but they're not great. So he does just populate the board a little bit, and I think he's just going to have to pass with 7 unused resources. That's really unfortunate in a deck built around these big plays. He does go ahead and Fury, so counts down all of Ikraen's units and gets in and takes out the Vader of the Wild at least. Most idols are defended, only the one undefended. We'll see if Ikraen is able to break through. Doesn't need to rally anymore. Fjords of Vigor is going to certainly be played. Bottom idol is as good as dead. So with some careful shifting, I still don't think that he can get through and finish any of the idols, other than the bottom one, of course. Goes up to 8 resources. Sister of the Owl comes down, spawns the owl intelligently in front. Fjords comes down, lingers. It won't go away. And now needs to shift his rat and wolf up. Actually, it looks like he's going to shift the Brute up. It's going to leave the bottom idol alive, but he's going to get a little bit of idol damage on the 4th idol, and drops the bottom one down to 1. So Tak4n still needs to find something like Sudden Eruption. He's got a Burn, unfortunate timing, and then finds a monster and a Machination Mindset that won't go on it. So we're going to see Cannon come down. The armor is really handy, but the Fjords of Vigor basically counters it. And Tak4n is forced just to play out the Cannon Automaton and pass the turn. That's all he can really do. Ikraen looking for lethal. He's got the Rallying, so I'm sure he can find it. We see Rallying come down. Another Fjords to increase the countdown there. And does he have lethal? 3, 5, 7. I don't think he's got lethal here. So he's just going to crash in and deal a little bit of damage. So Tak4n gets to live another turn. Has Top Reaver Thea now. Not helpful, but better than the Machination Mindset at least. Really unfortunate. He needs to find those other Sudden Eruptions. He's probably got at least 1, probably 2 left in the deck. I think he's only drawn the 1. He may have sacrificed 1 early that I missed. But really, even with a Sudden Eruption, he needed a Power Trip to make it good at this point. There's just so many units on the board. So with this resource count on 8, he can just play Solemn Giant, Gravelock Guard to the top is basically all he can do. Hope against hope that... I mean, he's got 2 idols down. He's got to get multiple units on this top idol. But with the rally effect, he knows he's as good as dead, so he's got to assume that his opponent doesn't have it. And so he defends his cannon, hoping to get that attack. Ikraen does have another rallying, so we are going to see lethal here unless Ikraen totally misses it, but I think that's pretty unlikely. Any number of ways he can pull it out. Looks like a couple of rats shifting down. He'll bring everything else to the 4th row here. There's the rally. And it's just going to be enough with the buff to the Sister of the Owl, and gets in and deals 5 damage to the 2nd idol, clears the board as well, or everything but the Gravelock Guard. And Ikraen, with his unorthodox but really interesting Waypoints comes into play deck, is able to take it down in the first round of this ESL tournament. So Ikraen moves on. Very well done by Ikraen. So this has been Smogan with Scrollscast. Thanks for tuning in.